I'd like to call the meeting together at 16:01 and ask for any public comment. Anything from you? No? Okay. We welcome it if you'd like. Approval of the minutes from January 13th. Well, I'm back a few years. Any corrections or additions? If not, we'll accept them as printed. So, Patty.
Yes.
You're up.
All right.
We should really have a motion to accept those minutes.
Oh, all right.
I move that the minutes of the last.
I second that motion to accept the minutes of January 13th.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes as printed from January 13th, 2020? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Patty.
Okay. So today we have February warrants that total $21,373.87. The total for payroll is $17,266.33. And that includes Chief Carlton's salary of $5,278.50, along with Chief Shield's pay of $3,175.83. And along with that, there was one event for each of the commissioners and the secretary. And the total payout for the volunteers, including warrants, is $8,812. And I believe you all received a copy of the 2020, the year-end financial statement, and then also along with the January financial statements have also been handed out for your review. So today I am requesting a motion to approve the warrants and payroll for February as submitted, please.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for submittal.
Okay. I move that we approve for payment February warrants totaling $21,373.87 and payroll for $17,266.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All in favor of accepting the warrants of $21,373.87 and payroll of $17,266.33. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Okay, Patty?
Okay. And then I'm going to, as of January 31st, 2021, there's currently 92.16% left in the budget, and that is compared to 92.83 in 2020. And also on the financial report, I listed the budget comparison of 2019's budget year-end along with 2020 to show the different divisions, legislative through EMS training. And we ended the year 2020 with 14.49% left in the budget compared to an overall of 10.47% the year prior in 2019. And the year-end financial statement that I dispersed also had a breakdown of the divisions, and it showed what the 2020 budget was for each of those divisions, and along with that, in the middle column was the actual year-end total of what was either received or expended, and then the remainder. And so even though we ended the year with some uncollected taxes, we remained under budget, and we have an overall carryover of $50,621.70 that, per the board's approval, I would like to transfer that over to the capital fund and invest that towards capital improvements in the future.
Okay. May I have a motion to that effect? Pat?
Yep. I make a motion that we accept that when we get off of a different computer. I don't have a hard copy.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion is passed.
Patty?
Yes,
Go ahead.
That was a motion to transfer $50,621.70 to the Capital One for investment.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's currently in the expense fund, but I'll transfer it over to capital for the future. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that for investment part was correct.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, go ahead, Patty.
Okay, and that concludes my report. Unless anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer what I can.
Any questions about Patty's report?
No.
Okay, moving along. Correspondence, Chief?
I don't have any correspondence to report.
Okay, you want to go ahead with the Chief's report?
The Chief's reports for February 2021, for January 2020, or 2021, sorry. Point of information that I want to go over is that we're conducting COVID vaccination survey right now. As of today, about an hour ago, we had 510 respondents that are showing interest in wanting to get vaccinated. This was sent out over PAWS, Point Interface, Nextdoor, so all the social media sites that we use in this community, plus the All Point Bulletin to Louise and Pat. Sorry about the phone. So right now, again, 510, we have close to 250 people over the age of 65 that are interested in getting vaccinated. And we're cooperatively working with the community clinic in order to provide this to our community. We will be hosting a drive-up vaccination clinic here once we are successful at gaining vaccines to the clinic for distribution to the clinic, to the community. And we don't know what we're going to get. We don't know if we're going to get Moderna or Pfizer. We're going to see if we can request Moderna. And if that's the case, then that's easier for us because Moderna doesn't have to be reconstituted, where the Pfizer one does. So it takes a little longer to constitute and put into a needle and then to deliver somebody. So I've received both doses of the Moderna vaccine myself. The second dose does come with a little bit more hit to it, and most people are experiencing that. Running low-grade fevers, body aches, definitely a sore arm, those types of symptoms. So does anybody have any questions on that? We're most likely going to be putting in for vaccines on this Friday, making our order. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to get any vaccines here in this community. So it depends on the distribution from the feds and the states at that point, if we get any, and then where those go within our state. We're hopeful that we can, so we can start that vaccination process here. And in the beginning of this, when we started looking at vaccinating our community, I was saying that we probably had between 500 and 700 people currently in the community that would want to be vaccinated, and we seem to be right on track with that number. So we're almost at a tie between those of age 55 to 64. There's about 100, I want to say 100, don't quote me on this, I'd have to go back to the sheet, but let's say there's 170 in that bracket, and there's 169 for the 65 to 75 age range. So they're very, very close between 55 and 65, how many people in our community want to be vaccinated. So we're going to make it as efficient as possible and as effective and as easy a process as possible for those wanting to be vaccinated in our community. A lot of people have provided their contact information, so we'll be reaching out to those people. Now, I do understand that there's individuals who don't have a computer or who may not know about this survey that's going on right now. I can say, please don't worry, we'll get to you and we'll reach out in more ways as we get closer to the vaccination time. But the drive up seemingly seems to be the most efficient around the state at this point. I've been able to visit 3 different sites, a nursing facility that was being vaccinated, St. Joseph's Hospital that has a vaccination rotation through their HEC center there, and then also an Arlington airport site where they're vaccinating about 180 people an hour. So they're getting over 1,000 vaccines in a day as long as they have the vaccine. So they're getting Moderna one day, they're getting Pfizer another day, so they're having to mix up the vaccines. The difficulty seems to be the second shot and people acquiring that. Now they've extended the time period out from the roughly 21 to 28 days depending on the vaccine. They've extended the time frame out in order to accommodate a longer stance on that second shot, and now it's up to 6 weeks, both for Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine. So I just want to let you guys know that we're keeping close tabs on it. We're developing a plan here for our community, and when we get it, we'll start poking arms and see how we do. So does anybody have anything to say on that?
I do. I'm curious if your plan is to vaccinate on those 3 age groups, or if members of those 3 age groups will be able to apply for a different priority level based on their current health situation.
Yeah, right now we're 1A. The state is in 1A. I don't have that up. Yeah, I don't have that up at this point, but they're in a 1A and a tier 1B for the one group, or phase 1. So right now it's 65 years and older. If we move into the next stage, it's 55 years and above. I don't want to misquote that. So, and I can't get to where I want to go. Just give me a second, please, and let me see if I can get to where I'm going to go.
My question is more or less about the ages than, what about a 4-year-old who's going through chemo, or some other health issues or pre-existing conditions?
No, I understand what you're asking. That pre-existing condition by Washington State Phase Finder, and that doesn't start until spring, summer. And so let me share this with you real quick. I brought it up, so let me see if I can share my screen with you so you guys can see it. Can everybody see this? So this is the Phase Finder in Washington State. So everybody should have a blue screen or a blue piece of paper coming across their screen right now. Is that yes?
Yes.
Yes.
So you can see the 1A Tier 1, 1A Tier 2, and those are the high-risk healthcare providers, first responders, long-term care facilities, workers at high risk. The 1B that we're currently in is 65 years and older. All people 50 years and older in a multi-generational household. So if they have, you can read it yourself, a home where individuals, 2 or more generations reside, such as an elder, and a grandchild. Later in the spring, we're moving into that 1B Tier 2, and that's 50 years and older that work in those different areas as well. And then the 1B Tier 3 would be the 16-year-olds and older, 2 or more comorbidities or underlying conditions. So comorbidities is later in the year. Do I feel that we might be able to move through these phases quicker here in our community and not wait until the spring, summer? As it states, the timeline represented at the bottom of that page, here are estimates and subject to change. Can that timeline change for our community? I would answer that yes. That timeline may change for our community, and we may be able to work through these these phases quicker or more efficiently because we're of a closed community capacity here. I don't see a lot of people. I do see, there are dual citizens over in Canada that may come to Point Roberts to get vaccinated, who don't care about going back into Canada for a 14-day quarantine. We may have some of those come through and get vaccinated, but I do not see people, coming up from Arizona to get vaccinated in Point Roberts because they won't be allowed through P-Search in order to do that. So this is a unique situation because we're more of a closed community here. So I think we might be able to work through and get everybody effectively and efficiently vaccinated pretty quickly, but it will take weeks, it will take time, and we will have to deal with when we don't get any vaccine. I don't plan on contacting people until we have the vaccine in hand. With the Pfizer vaccine, we have 6 days to use it once it's in a refrigerator and thawed. For the Moderna vaccine, we have up to 30 days to use it. So the Moderna vaccine gives us a lot more flexibility than the Pfizer vaccine at this point.
Chief, is there any thought about homebound patients and how we might handle them not able to come to the site or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. We're going to need the public's help in that for those that are homebound that don't have a way to get to the vaccination site. We most likely may get a trailer vehicle, it's not a trailer vehicle, but one of our response vehicles that would go out to these individuals' homes and vaccinate them. But I don't want that to be utilized as a default for people. These are really only for people that we know of at this point, either through the Circle of Care or through our community paramedic program that we see on a weekly basis, that we know really don't get out and about from their residences and maybe not have friends or family that can come pick them up and bring them to the vaccination site. So it won't be a community-wide. We won't be doing hundreds of those because there's very few people in this community that don't have the ability to get in a vehicle or have somebody help them get to the vaccination site.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions on that? Rihanna, I see that you put a question in, and Canadian entry requirements for returning Canadians, so let me read it. Here, will it meet Canada's entry requirements? So interesting, are you asking if Canadians are getting tested here, can they re-entry into Canada or us?
No, like if I wanted to go back to Canada, there's a certain test that's required.
Yeah, so
I also have a friend who might be joining his wife and wants to know whether it will meet, I can't remember what it's called, PICR test.
Yeah, so the tests that are being done in Northwest Labs absolutely meet Canada's requirement. And I say that because
those are the ones admitted that you administer at Firehall?
Yeah, so Northwest Labs, it's the diagnostic laboratory that does the testing on the samples. And Canada is actually using Northwest Labs for their overflow and for some of their areas. So Canada is sending overflow tests down to Northwest Labs in Bellingham and getting Canadians tested through Northwest Labs in Bellingham. So it definitely does meet their requirements. It'd be interesting. I think it's Life Labs out of Canada who is conducting that and sending tests down to Northwest Labs in Bellingham. And they're not using Northwest letterhead when they send them out to the Canadians, the test results to the Canadians. They're putting their Life Lab logo on it, but the actual test results are coming from Northwest Labs in Bellingham.
Great, thank you. I'll let people know.
Yeah, if you would. And if anybody has any difficulties, we need to know because Canada shouldn't be causing any problems with us when we're using the same laboratory they're using for their own citizens.
Yes.
One question.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I've heard some from some of our citizens about this. Some people were concerned that the requirement for documented evidence and test negative when it's required after for all and that border, American passing.
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, so, Ray, can you move closer to your mic because you're breaking up
I'm sorry.
a little bit? So I understand what you're saying. People are afraid that when this requirement goes into the Canadian border,
Yeah.
they can have tests within 72 hours. And some people are saying it's for all people entering Canada. It's only if you're staying in Canada, okay? And the direct transit through Canada is not going to be affected by this. So you don't need a test to transit through to Blaine. You need a test if you plan on going to a doctor or if you plan on staying if you plan on getting out of your car in Canada, you need a test. That's an easy way to put it. But not for direct transit. And that's from the meetings that I've been involved in, that's the word that we're getting. That would be an extreme move for Canada to stop even direct transit for us in Point Roberts when they're still allowing transit through Manitoba from Lake of the Woods, Campbell Island to come through the United States. They're allowing Hyder, Alaska to go into Canada now as well. And they're going to single out Point Roberts and stop direct transit to our country when we're not getting out of our vehicles. That would be an extreme move and very quickly guarded against with my contacts at the federal level if that came to be. So I don't see that coming. I have not heard that. It's only if you're staying in the community. I've gotten tons of phone calls. There's a lot of things going back and forth that are not factual on Nextdoor and on some of the other social media websites. And I want to, make sure everybody's comfortable that the direct transit is not supposed to be affected by this new rule that's going into effect. It's only those travelers that want to stay in Canada or that are coming to Canada to visit.
I had a similar explanation by the board this morning when I went through, exactly the same as the chief has said.
Some people are saying it's going to affect, no one's going to be able to travel through, and that's just completely wrong. And I'd like to get that corrected. Pat's on this meeting today, so I'm fine with sending something out to Nextdoor too, but some people are just reading the 72-hour and entering Canada, but the definition of entering Canada for this purpose is you're staying in Canada, not directly transiting through.
I have a question. If you get a vaccine of one manufacturer, does it make any difference when you get your second shot?
Yes.
Do you need to use the same one or different?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Yes, right now they're starting to study if you can mix the vaccines, but at this point, all the guidance we're getting is that you have to stay with the same vaccine you got on the first shot.
Okay.
They're different in tiny ways.
Yeah, so if you get a Moderna shot, your second shot needs to be Moderna. It can't be Pfizer and vice versa.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions on that? And I'll continue. That's just my beginning of my chief's report.
Steve said to plan on being here for a while today.
I put 2-hour length time on this meeting today just to handle some questions. And we got some new business to discuss too. So hopefully we're working, Virginia's part of the team, Barbara Whalen's part of the team, I am, Dr. Sean, we're working absolutely cooperatively together to get the vaccines and get this community vaccinated as soon as possible. So please know that people need to be patient as well. And we're going to probably follow that phase in Washington State, but we may, again, be able to move through it quicker within our community. So we'll see if we can gain permission to do that. Okay. So going on, apparatus. So I think all of you probably know our little Ford Explorer was wrecked back in December. So utility 5802. If you haven't seen it around for a while, and I alerted our chairman, our Commissioner Lester, to the fact that it was wrecked. And the person that wrecked it was on black ice. It happened on Benson and South Beach. And at the end of this, it was totaled out. So our insurance policy gives us it's a $65,000 replacement value for that vehicle. Initially, we were only offered $15,000, And I was told that it's because they sent out the wrong adjuster to that, and they treated it differently, so I asked for a different adjuster to be sent out. And then that adjustment was raised into the high 40s. And then I gave them some invoices on how much it costs to get the lighting, the deckling on it, and also the radios put back into an apparatus, which is between $15,000 and $20,000 for all of that to be done. So people think of just the truck, right? They don't think of how much it costs to outfit an emergency vehicle with equipment, emergency lights, radios, and everything else. So it came down to where they totaled it out. So we have a $500 deductible on our insurance. So we're going to be getting a check for $64,500 to replace that. I've been speaking with Commissioner Lester alone, just talking about the topic in regards to what would be the best way to benefit our organization and also the taxpayer regarding the funds that we're going to be receiving in. We still have to use them as any other types of funds, so I'll have to utilize state bid to purchase another vehicle. And we're most likely going to try to purchase 2 vehicles and then utilize, let me go back. Our capital facilities plan, we're 2 vehicles behind right now, I believe. And Battalion 58 was supposed to already be replaced along with Utility 5802. So that would have cost the taxpayers, I think, around $120,000, $130,000 in our capital facilities replacement plan. So the driver wasn't badly hurt, so they went home. Just to let you know, the member who was driving that vehicle didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. So that was the blessing of this. There is a side blessing, and that is that we would most likely be able to purchase 2 vehicles out of this and use the cost of the replacement of one of the vehicles in the capital reserve, capital facilities plan to outfit both vehicles at the time, thus really saving the taxpayers the cost of one of the replacement vehicles. And that would be a cost between $40,000 and $60,000. So that would be saved by utilizing these funds in the best way possible, try to purchase 2 vehicles that we're behind on right now. So that's an idea, and I'm putting it out there and having a discussion on it. I would need to ask for the ability to use between $60,000 and $70,000 of capital reserves. And since we're putting away $50,000 into capital reserves from last year, it would really only impact our reserves $20,000 to $30,000 and not the entire amount, if you can understand the math on that. So first, I need to have a discussion, have permission to move forwards with purchasing, replacing Battalion 58, which is the truck, is John's truck, and replacing Utility 5802, the 2 vehicles that we're behind on, and utilizing the funds that we're getting from the insurance claim, and then also having permission to use a certain amount of capital reserves to outfit both vehicles as necessary. So I'm open to a discussion on that.
Questions?
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Commissioner Harper, I think I have a really good idea, and how to, and speaking to Virginia about this, but how to repurpose Battalion 58, the red pickup truck that John drives around. And I would need to ask for permission to buy a Wildland skid to put in the back of Battalion 58 and make it our true Wildland vehicle. So right now we're using engine 58, our new engine, our small engine, and it works. We have a Wildland hose on that engine, 150 or 200 feet of Wildland hose. So it's able to work if we don't have to move the truck. So the problem with engine 58, when we have backyard burns, it's fine because we park on the street, we take the hose in the back. But if we have a moving ground fire in a field or something like that, engine 58 is going to have to be put into pump because it's not a PTO, it's not a power takeoff or driven, so we can't drive it as we're pumping. And then we would have to shut it down, move it to another area, restart the pump, start firefighting again, and then so on and so forth. With Battalion 58, it is a pickup truck. Its tranny is completely separate from a Wildland skid, which would have its own pump its own water tank and everything else put in the back of Battalion 58. You may remember we had something of similar in the back of Battalion 58 a number of years ago that we took out. We had a tank in the back, but it was pneumatically driven, so it would rely on air. And once that air was exhausted, then we would have to come back to the fire hall and replenish that air tank, which could take up to 30 to 45 minutes to recharge that tank. So that's just not efficient in a wildland case. So by we priced out the skids a couple years ago, so they might have increased, but it's going to probably be around $8,000 to purchase a skid that's worth about 250 to 300 gallons of water, having a 200-foot reel on it, having capacity to hold wildland plaskies and other tools as well, and some backpacks, 5-gallon backpacks. We can't go over the weight of Battalion 58, so we have to monitor that so we don't overload Battalion 58 once it's, all the water's put in this. But that would have to be another approval by you that I would be allowed to spend probably up to $8,000 to buy a wildland skid to put in Battalion 58. So the benefit of that is we show up with Battalion 58 in a field. Battalion 58 can just keep driving. We can start up the engine in the back, and we have 300 gallons that we can drive the perimeter of the fire with at that point. Once we run out of water, that's very, very quick. We can fill that up at the nearest hydrant located to that field fire, and then get back to firefighting. The fuel for the Honda engine, which is normally a 6.5 to 9 power Honda engine, that's easy. We can carry extra gas cans on the truck. So it's much more efficient to do it that way. And Commissioner Harper, I thought you would like the idea since you've been pushing wildland things for a couple years now as a commissioner. And it's a good way to repurpose Battalion 58 and put another vehicle in service for the community that's more effective than what we have now.
I might add that I hope you hear me better. I switched microphones. Good. I'm also concerned about our vulnerability to wildland fires, and it sounds to me like your solution provides us with a very compact, very mobile, very maneuverable little pumper capability that can follow along with a moving fire.
Right.
I think that's extremely useful, and I think that you'll see some support for this idea.
Yeah, that we don't have the movability of a moving pumper at this point, because all of our trucks, you have to put them in pump gear, and then they have to stay stationary.
Yeah.
To move them, we have to take the pump out of gear, meaning we don't flow any more water for the period of time that we're moving that vehicle. So by repurposing Battalion 58, even though it's an older vehicle, I think it would fare well for this. It's a 4-wheel drive vehicle, so if we need to go out to a field, those types of things. The reason why this is brought up is because we had actually probably a 50 by 50 yard fire at the golf course last summer. And the only thing that saved the woods, because it had reached the woods by the time we arrived, by the time we were called, is that they were able to turn on some of their sprinkler systems on the golf course, which kept it at bay. But the fingers, which we call the wildland fingers, had reached actually the wooded area and were starting to burn higher grass when we arrived. And we found the complication of having, even though Engine 58 is a smaller vehicle, right? Once we positioned it, it had to stay there until we were ready to move it. And it's a much heavier vehicle too. So if it gets muddy, it has a good possibility, even though it's 4-wheel drive, we can't pump in 4-wheel drive. So there's a number of things that we have to follow when we're using that engine. So if I have permission, I think this would be a good way to go and have a good vehicle and have it stand ready during the summer months. Now during the winter, leaving that skid in the back of Battalion 58, we would have to cover it, we would have to insulate it, because during weather like today, we don't want the pipes to freeze and crack on it. So we may have to drop it and put it in storage during the winter.
Well, it's, that kind of arrangement worked quite well on initial attack. And the field, usually the rec people on patrol, Forest Service, uses those quite often. They work very well for the purpose.
Yeah, and this would be like any other Wildland truck that's built, not as fancy, but it would be like any other Wildland truck that's built and its capability for purposes of protecting our community.
Yeah,
So I guess what I'm asking is, can I use the insurance money that we're getting from Utility 5802's claim? Can I utilize that to put forth at least towards one vehicle at this point, most likely two? And then do I have permission to utilize up to, I'll leave it up to you, between $60,000 and $70,000 in addition to outfit both vehicles?
So we need this in the form of a motion. Do you wanna tackle that?
yeah, I make a motion that, we go forward with this proposal for the skid upper truck. And,
On the addition,
yes,
how much?
you say 70,000? So that was,
Okay, that's your proposal. Do you have a second? Ray, you would second it? Or I'll second it?
Well, just to clarify, I thought it was a proposal to use the $65,000 approximately insurance payment plus a maximum of additional $1,000 out of the capital budget. Chief Carlton, what was your proposal?
Yeah, let me explain that. So we're putting away $50,000 in the capital reserves from last year. So I need to use that plus an additional 20.
No, that is. Okay.
But it's only going to really impact our capital reserves by that 20 because where they're currently at today, because we haven't put that money away yet. Does that make sense?
Thank you very much. That clarifies it for me. So Pat, of course, was exactly right. And yes, I do second his proposal just as he made it. I second the motion.
And this is preliminary. You will do some study about what's available and what's going to be necessary. And we may have to revisit this and add or whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, to replace Battalion 58, to make that another battalion vehicle and have it outfitted with lights, radios, equipment, because it's going to be different than Battalion 58 now. It's going to be more efficiently outfitted for fire scenes and for emergency medical scenes. So right now we're about 55,000 with that truck, and that doesn't include a radio or anything like that yet. So I'll keep you definitely in the loop. We'll revisit this next month. Let me check my schedule real quick. I don't think, I apologize, I should know this. So next month, March 10th, I am down south, so Chief Shields will be running the meeting during that since I'm on shift down south, unless I can get special permission to jump on, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't get a call, right, during the meeting. So if I have that permission, I'll start working towards it. I know that the manufacturers Ford and Chevy, if we decide to make Chief 58, the rig that I have now, back into Utility 5802 for firefighters to use, and then purchase another Chief's vehicle, that's another discussion as well. So that would be the second vehicle. That's how we would be moving around our complement of emergency vehicles at this point. So technically, the Battalion 58 would be replaced with the new pickup truck, and then Battalion 58 would become our wildland vehicle. Potentially Utility 5802 that was wrecked, that has been salvaged already, it's no longer on property, would be Tahoe that we have now would be to become Utility 58 and then a new Chief's vehicle. So that's kind of like the scope that we're looking at with these funds, since we're behind two vehicles at this point.
I propose that I read the motion.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to do that. Thank you.
Chief is the only one that really understands how the money's being, okay, so I'm gonna go with this. The motion by Commissioner Harper is authorizing Chief Carlton to use the insurance proceeds to purchase one new vehicle, plus authorizing him to access an additional 50 to 60,000 from capital reserves for a second vehicle and a wildland skid to re-outfit Battalion 58.
I think that was 50 to 70,000. Is that correct?
It was a maximum of 70,000, I think was the intent.
And is that right, Chief? It's for a replacement vehicle, a second vehicle, and the wildland skid to re-outfit Battalion 58.
Yeah, and that's why I probably will need up to that 70, because if we get into, it's amazing, it takes about 30 grand to outfit a vehicle, you know, with lights, radios, equipment, and all the stuff that we carry, you know, to go to calls, and it's normally not understood well. People think, well, a truck on state bid is $32,000, so why is it so much? But that's a strip truck for $32,000. So anyway, but yes, that suffices to what I have asked to be given permission to do. Yes.
Okay, do you need Linda to read this again, or can we vote on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's passed.
Okay. No other rigs are having problems right now, so that takes care of Utility 58 discussion and the whole insurance issue. 44 members, 26 Canadian, 10 Point Roberts, 8 County. I'm happy to say that the Canadians aren't having any trouble coming over and volunteering as emergency services providers. There have been a couple CBSA agents that have given a little pushback, but you know, they understand the emergency services providers, and they're certified firefighters, emergency medical responders as well. So everything's going pretty good there. We still have 8 county members, 5 paramedics on staff, 8 EMTs, which 5 advanced EMTs within that group, 3 ambassadors, and 34 firefighters still. So not much has changed in how that is distributed. We did have Alexa Locke, one of our female volunteer firefighters. She just got picked up full-time with Ferndale, so my other organizations, and she's being placed on my shift, actually down there. But we put her through EMT school and under contract for $1,500. Whatcom County Fire District 7 is going to reimburse our district for that amount since they hired her professionally, and so she doesn't have to pay that back. So Patty is making that invoice, and
It'll be mailed Friday.
it'll be mailed Friday. So we're getting reimbursed. So everybody's following their contracts, which I'm very proud of. And Alexa was going to pay it back, but speaking with Chief Hoffman of Fire District 7, he chose to, since they hired her, and since we paid for her EMT school, that they were going to pay us back for that.
That's very generous.
Yeah, it was very nice of them. Very nice. Volunteer hours for the month of January, 2,605. If we paid everybody, we would have paid out $19,549. A lot of that cost was because there was a lot of coverage for me being gone still in December. So I want everybody to, or first part of January, I should say. So I want everybody to understand that we're not going to be continuing at that rate of volunteer cost. Chief hours, I worked 196 hours in January. Assistant Chief Shields 128.5, sorry. Combined chief hours 324.5. We had 23 calls in January, 7 EMS calls. We had 1 St. Joseph's transport by our agency. Airlift Northwest transported 1. We had 5 no transports. We had 8 community paramedic home visits. We had 1 law enforcement assist and 1 public service. We had 6 classifications of fires. We had 2 illegal outdoor burns. We had 1 structure call. We had 1 water problem. And we had a wrong address that we were dispatched to. So that happens sometimes too. Sometimes they dispatch us to a Bellingham address, but it comes across as a Port Roberts address, and then they correct it. But it's still, we have to still count it. So we're not going to respond from here to Bellingham. I'll just let the public know that. So respond on that way. That completes my report for this month, for January.
Thank you. Any questions of the chief?
No.
Any unfinished business that anybody needs to talk about? Excuse me. If not, I would welcome a motion for adjournment.
New business.
Oh, no, oh, it's not on here, so I missed it. New business, sorry.
That's Linda's fault. She was looking at you, and then that's her fault over there.
Okay, new business.
I said I had new business, but we've actually covered it all in my chief report. So then I don't need to add anything else in that.
Okay, all right. Any other comments?
Yeah. I've noticed driving around the point, you know, they're doing a little land clearing here and there on lots. And I noticed they stack this stuff they cleared, usually on the lot, they don't all the way, usually push it to the side near somebody's house. But I just wonder what the regulations are for land clearing, what to do with the debris, if they're supposed to haul away or just leave it there as a fire hazard, which it will be in August. It makes me nervous when they do that. And I just wonder if there's a way we can nip that in the bud.
So that's county controlled. You know, land clearing, if you drive down I-5, you can look to the side of the highway and see huge piles of timber in the middle of fields, right? That have been there for years. So I don't know what the regulations on that, Commissioner, are, but I know that is county, that's the county's duty to enforce what they expect to have happen with that debris. And I've been driving around too, and I know there's a lot of properties with some good sized piles, you know, on them. But I have to say, a property owner is responsible for that, to follow county code, and then the county is responsible to get people up here and to enforce that if necessary.
Well, the piles I've seen, you can't burn.
They're too, yeah, they're too big.
But they're too big and too close to people's houses.
Yeah, they'll have to bring a mulcher up, or they'll have to figure some way to haul that stuff off.
Yeah.
A lot of people burns at 2 a.m. though. 2 a.m. and nobody calls me. And, you know, they go, well, my neighbor's illegally burning at 2 a.m. And I'm like, well, we never received a call. And they go, well, we don't want to call 911. Right? And so how do we track it? How do we document it? So I can send those people to Northwest Clean Air, because Northwest Clean Air, depending on the illegal activity, their fines start out $10,000 or more, depending on the illegal activity. Now, for a small fire, which I've had to turn a couple members over in the community to Northwest Clean Air, have been about $1,000 fines, you know, $750, because they just continue to put the community at risk in burning legal items and those types of things. It's a 3-strike rule for me, unless they give us really big problems on number 1. Then I send them directly down, because I don't want our people put into harm's way.
Yeah, there's a good example, right? It's pretty close to the corner of the mill and Benson. You just cleared little piles there underneath the trees.
Right. And if they plan on building, or those lots get sold and they build, they'll get rid of that somehow, right? But for now, yes, any of those piles on any lot that we have here in Point Roberts will become a fire danger, right? During the summer months.
Yeah. Does the Washington Department of Natural Resources have a hand in this by any chance?
No, not that I know of. And what I'll do is I'll reach out to the fire marshal and see if they can give me more information that I can provide you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Questions?
I don't have a question, but if I may, I just have one item that I would like to add for March's agenda, if I may.
Sure.
And that would be to just review the Point Roberts Hospital District. The annual contract for rent is coming up, so we just need to discuss that next month if we could.
We'll discuss it, and we'll have it ahead of time.
Yes, and I'll have the information. I'll look and see what the CPI is, and I'll email out some information with the meeting documents.
Good, sure.
Thank you.
Anything else? Last call. Okay, I'd like to adjourn at 16:50. This is a long meeting today, Chief.
Sorry.
Really?
I know. Sorry. I wish everybody to stay safe, and please stay vigilant out there in public, and protect yourselves and help your friends protect themselves too. And hopefully we'll have the vaccine soon and start benefiting those people that want to get vaccinated. And it's okay if you don't, you know, it's a choice. So either way, it's fine, but we'll do our best to do it as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Goodbye.